My name is Kate Madison and I'm 23 years old. And this is the story of how my own family literally killed me off for money while I was serving my country overseas. I should have seen it coming when I turned 18 and my mother Denise looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're finally old enough to be somebody else's problem." That's when I knew I had to get out. Growing up in that house felt like walking on broken glass every single day. My younger brother Luke was the golden child who could do no wrong, while my sister Audrey got away with everything because she was Daddy's little princess. Me. I was just the mistake they never let me forget about. You eat too much, you talk too much, you take up too much space, my father Jerome would say whenever I tried to join family conversations. Why can't you be more like your siblings? The constant criticism wore me down until I believed I really was worthless. When I graduated high school, instead of congratulations, my mother handed me a suitcase and said, "The military takes anybody. Even you." So that's exactly what I did. I walked into that recruitment office with my head held high for the first time in years and signed up for the Army. The recruiter, Sergeant Martinez, looked at me with more respect in 5 minutes than my family had shown me in 18 years. "You've got potential, Madison," he said. "The Army will make something great out of you." For once in my life, someone believed in me. 2 weeks before I left for basic training, I did something that would later save my life in ways I never imagined. I took out a life insurance policy worth $250,000. The benefits counselor explained it was smart financial planning for military personnel. "Your beneficiaries will be taken care of if anything happens to you overseas," she explained. I listed my parents as primary beneficiaries, thinking maybe having some security would make them proud of me for once. Looking back, I realize I was still desperately trying to earn their love, even as I prepared to escape them. The night before I left, my mother cornered me in the kitchen. "You know this military thing is just another one of your phases, right? You'll be back here in 6 months, crying about how hard everything is." Her voice dripped with the familiar contempt I'd grown up hearing. "Just like when you quit piano, quit dance, quit everything else you've ever tried." "This is different, Mom." "I'm different," I said, my voice steadier than I felt inside. She laughed, that cold laugh that used to make me shrink into myself. "You're not special, Kate. You're just like everyone else in this family, average. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life will be." That night, I called my best friend Maya, the only person who truly knew how toxic my home life was. Through tears, I told her about the conversation. "Girl, you don't need their approval," she said fiercely. "You're about to do something amazing. Don't let them dim your light before you even get started." Her words gave me the strength to walk out that door the next morning. Basic training was hell, but it was a different kind of hell than living at home. At least here, the pain had a purpose. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who wanted me to succeed. When I struggled with the physical training, my drill sergeant didn't call me worthless. He pushed me to be better. "Madison, you've got heart, soldier. Now show me you've got backbone too." Sergeant Rodriguez would yell as I struggled through obstacle courses. Every challenge I overcame, every milestone I reached, built something inside me that had been broken for years: self-respect. 3 months into training, I called home to share some good news. I'd made it through the toughest phase and was excelling in my specialized training program. My mother answered on the third ring, sounding annoyed. "Hey Mom, it's me. I wanted to tell you that I'm doing really well here. I'm actually at the top of my class and dash." "That's nice, baby," she cut me off, her tone flat and disinterested. "Listen, can you call back later? We're about to sit down for dinner and your father doesn't like being interrupted." I could hear laughter in the background, my siblings enjoying the family time I was never really part of. "Mom, I just wanted to share something important with you. I'm finally finding my place and dash." "Kate, you always did need too much attention. Some things never change." The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long moment, feeling that familiar ache in my chest. But this time something was different. This time I had Sergeant Rodriguez's voice in my head. "You've got heart, soldier." Maybe I didn't need their validation anymore. After graduation from basic training, I was stationed overseas in Germany with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. My unit became the family I'd never had, people who had my back, who celebrated my victories, and who saw my potential instead of my flaws. 6 months passed before I called home again. I'd been promoted to private first class and wanted to share the news. My father answered this time. "Dad, it's Kate. I wanted to let you know I'm doing amazing over here. I got promoted and dash." Where the hell have you been? His voice was ice cold. Your mother filed a missing person report 3 months ago. The police have been asking questions and you made us look like fools. My stomach dropped. What? Dad, I told you I was being deployed overseas. I gave you my contact information before I left. Don't lie to me, Kate. You disappeared without a trace just like you always do when things get tough. Your mother's been worried sick, thinking you were dead in a ditch somewhere. The irony wasn't lost on me, my mother filing a missing person report while simultaneously treating my calls like interruptions. I called Mom 6 months ago. I told her I was overseas. I gave her my unit information. That's not how she remembers it, he said curtly. Look, we've all moved on. We figured you weren't coming back anyway. Maybe it's better this way. Those words hit like a physical blow. Even when I was succeeding, even when I was serving my country, I was still just a burden they were happy to be rid of. Dad, I'm your daughter. I'm doing well, I'm safe, I'm Dash. The line went dead. I threw myself into military life with everything I had. If my biological family didn't want me, then I'd build a chosen family here. My squad leader, Staff Sergeant Washington, became like the father figure I'd never had. He saw potential in me and pushed me to apply for leadership training. Madison, you've got natural instincts for this work, he told me during one of our training exercises. Don't let whatever happened back home make you small. You're meant for big things. His words meant everything to me. For the first time, an adult was investing in my future instead of writing me off. I excelled in advanced training programs, earned commendations for my work, and even started taking college courses online using my military education benefits. Meanwhile, I'd try calling home every few months, but the conversations grew colder each time. My mother would cut me off mid-sentence, my father would make snide comments about me playing soldier, and my siblings were never available to talk. The message was clear, I was already forgotten. One particularly hard night, after a especially brutal conversation where my mother actually hung up on me mid-word, I called Maya back home. She was the only connection to my old life that still felt real. They act like I don't exist anymore, I told her through tears. Like I was never their daughter in the first place. Kate, listen to me. Maya's voice was fierce through the static. You are thriving over there. You're becoming the woman you were always meant to be. Don't let them shrink you back down to fit into their small world. He was right. I was thriving. For the first time in my life, I was proud of who I was becoming. What I didn't know was that my family's coldness wasn't just emotional distance. It was calculated preparation for something unthinkable. 2 years into my deployment, my mother called the local police department with a story that would change everything. I need to file a missing person report for my daughter, Kate Madison, she told Officer Bradley, her voice trembling with what sounded like genuine concern. She's been missing for over a year now. She left to join the military, but we haven't heard from her since. Officer Bradley pulled out his notepad. Ma'am, when was the last time you spoke with your daughter? It's been almost 2 years, my mother lied smoothly. She called once after she left for basic training, said she was scared and wanted to come home. That was the last we heard from her. We've been calling the military, but they won't tell us anything because of privacy laws. The officer nodded sympathetically. Military families often struggle with communication during deployments. Have you tried contacting the Red Cross? They have programs to help families connect with deployed service members. We've tried everything, she continued, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I just have this feeling in my heart that something terrible has happened to her. She was always so irresponsible, so careless. I'm worried she got herself into trouble and maybe she's not coming home. What made this lie so insidious was how she wove in just enough truth to make it believable. I had been scared during basic training. I was overseas and couldn't be easily contacted. And my family's history with me made it plausible that I would disappear. The missing person report was filed officially, creating the paper trail that would later support their bigger lie. While my mother was spinning her web of deception back home, I was having the best year of my military career. I'd been promoted to specialist and selected for an elite reconnaissance training program. My commanding officers were recommending me for further advancement, and I'd even started dating another soldier, James, who treated me with the kind of respect and affection I'd never experienced before. James and I were sitting in the mess hall one evening when he asked me about my family. You never talk about home, Kate. Do you miss them? I stirred my coffee thoughtfully. My family and I, we have a complicated relationship. They never really saw my potential, you know? They always treated me like I was in the way. Their loss, James said simply, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. You're the strongest person I know. Whatever their problem is, it's not about you, it's about them. His words hit deep because they felt true. For the first time, I was starting to understand that my family's treatment of me said more about them than it did about me. I was worthy of love and respect. I'd found that here with my chosen family in the military. That same week, I called home one last time, hoping maybe the distance had given us all some perspective. My brother Luke answered. Hey Luke, it's Kate. How are you doing? There was a long pause. Kate? I thought. Where are you calling from? I'm stationed in Germany. I've been here for 2 years. How's school going? Another pause. School's fine. Look, Kate, things have been different since you left. Maybe it's better if you don't call anymore. The finality in his voice cut deep. Luke, I'm your sister. I know we've had problems, but I gotta go, he said quickly, and the line went dead. I didn't know it then, but that would be our last conversation as siblings who shared a secret that wasn't built on fraud. 6 months after my mother filed the missing person report, my brother Luke made a phone call that would turn their lies into felony fraud. He contacted my life insurance company, his voice carefully modulated to sound grief-stricken. Hello, I need to file a claim on my sister's life insurance policy. Kate Madison, policy number 4472891. She died in a car accident while traveling. The claims representative, Ms. Patterson, expressed her condolences. I'm so sorry for your loss, Mr. Madison. I'll need you to submit some documentation, death certificate, police report, any accident reports. Of course, Luke replied. We're still dealing with the shock of it all. She was overseas and the accident happened while she was traveling between bases. The military has been helping us with the paperwork. What Luke had done was create an elaborate fiction using falsified documents he'd purchased through illegal channels online. The fake death certificate listed me as having died in a vehicular accident in a remote area, which explained why there might be limited witnesses or extensive investigation. The police report, equally fraudulent, described a single-car accident where the driver, allegedly me, had lost control and crashed in a ravine. The report was crafted to explain why a body might not have been immediately recovered, buying them time to establish their story. Ms. Patterson processed the claim with the documentation provided. The payout will be $250,000, distributed according to the beneficiary designations on file, your parents as primary beneficiaries, and you and your sister as secondary. That's correct, Luke confirmed. Kate would have wanted the money to help the family. She always felt bad about being such a burden growing up. Even in their fictional version of my death, they couldn't resist one last insult to my memory. The insurance money transformed my family's life overnight. Within weeks of receiving the $250,000 payout, they began spending like lottery winners. My father bought a brand new BMW, claiming he deserved something nice after all the stress of losing his daughter. My mother traded in her old Honda for a luxury SUV, telling neighbors that Kate would have wanted us to have reliable transportation. Luke used his portion to put a down payment on a sports car, while Audrey spent hers on designer clothes and expensive vacations with her friends. But the biggest purchase was the house, a sprawling 4-bedroom home in the wealthy part of town, complete with a swimming pool and 3-car garage. We always dreamed of living somewhere like this, my mother told their new neighbors, dabbing her eyes dramatically. Our daughter Kate always said she wanted us to have nice things. Before we lost her, she made us promise to take care of ourselves. The neighbors, moved by her apparent grief, welcomed the family warmly. They had no idea they were witnessing one of the most callous acts of betrayal imaginable, parents literally profiting off their living daughter's supposed death. My father even went so far as to create a small memorial corner in their new home, complete with my old high school photos and a fake military flag that he claimed had been presented to them at my funeral. Visitors would express their condolences and my parents would nod solemnly, accepting sympathy for a death that never happened. Meanwhile, my sister posted on social media about missing my angel sister and living every day in her memory, all while wearing designer clothes purchased with money stolen from my life insurance policy. The most sickening part? They were genuinely happy. Happier than I'd ever seen them when I was actually part of their lives. While my family was building their new life on the foundation of my fake death, I was building something real and meaningful thousands of miles away. I'd been promoted to sergeant and was leading my own small unit. My commanding officer, Colonel Martinez, had recommended me for officer candidate school. "Madison, you have natural leadership abilities and the respect of your soldiers," she told me during my evaluation. "Have you considered making the military a long-term career? You could go far in this organization." For the first time in my life, I was hearing words like potential, leadership, and bright future applied to me by people who mattered. James and I had gotten engaged, and we were planning a small wedding ceremony on base with our military family in attendance. "I wish your family could be here to see how amazing you've become," James said one evening as we walked around the base. "You've built something incredible here." "This is my family," I replied, gesturing to the soldiers we passed who greeted us warmly. "These people have seen me at my worst and believed in me at my best. That's what real family does." I'd stopped trying to call home months ago, finally accepting that some relationships are too toxic to salvage. The silence hurt, but it also felt like freedom. I was no longer waiting for their approval or trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given. What I didn't know was that back home I wasn't just forgotten, I was officially dead. My family had moved on so completely that they'd erased me from existence, literally banking on the fact that I would never return to expose their lies. But life has a way of bringing truth to light, especially when people get too comfortable with their deceptions. After 3 years overseas, I was finally granted extended leave for the holidays. I wanted to surprise my family. Despite everything, some part of me still hoped that time and distance might have changed their hearts. I'd grown so much as a person, accomplished so much, that maybe they would finally see me as worthy of their love. James thought I was making a mistake. "Kate, you haven't heard from them in over a year. Maybe it's better to leave sleeping dogs lie." But I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed closure one way or another. "I have to try, James. They're still my family, and Christmas is about forgiveness and new beginnings." I flew back stateside in my dress uniform, proud of the rank insignia on my shoulders and the commendation ribbons on my chest. I'd become someone important, someone who commanded respect. Surely that would mean something to them. My first shock came when I took a taxi to my childhood home and found strangers living there. The new owner, Mrs. Henderson, was confused when I asked about the Madison family. "Oh, they moved out almost 2 years ago," she told me. "Lovely family, but they said they needed something bigger after their daughter died." Tragic story. Young girl died in a car accident while she was in the military. They said they couldn't bear living in the house with all those memories. I stood on that familiar porch in my full military uniform, listening to a stranger explain how my family had told the neighborhood I was dead. The words didn't compute at first. Dead. But I was standing right there, alive, breathing, decorated soldier home for the holidays. "Ma'am," I said carefully, "I am Kate Madison. That was my family, and I'm definitely not dead." Mrs. Henderson's eyes went wide as she took in my uniform, my face, the reality of my very obvious existence. "Oh my God," she whispered. "But they had a funeral. There were flowers and everything. They moved because they said this house had too many memories of you." Mrs. Henderson gave me their new address in the wealthy part of town, along with a look of concern and confusion that told me she was starting to understand something was very wrong with the story she'd been told. I took another taxi across town to their new house, a massive modern home that was clearly worth more than my parents could ever afford on their regular salaries. Christmas morning, I stood on their front porch in my dress uniform, taking deep breaths and preparing myself for what was about to happen. Through the window, I could see them all gathered around a massive Christmas tree, opening expensive presents and laughing. They looked genuinely happy, happier than I'd ever seen them when I was part of their lives. I rang the doorbell and waited. My father answered the door, and I watched his face go through the most incredible transformation I'd ever seen. First confusion, then recognition, then absolute horror as the reality hit him. "Kate," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Merry Christmas, Dad." "Surprise, I'm not dead." From inside the house, I heard my mother's voice calling out, "Jerome, who's at the door?" When she appeared behind him and saw me standing there, she actually stumbled backward, her hand flying to her chest. "That's impossible," she breathed. We buried you. You died in that car accident." "What car accident, Mom?" "I've been stationed in Germany for 3 years, serving my country. I called you several times to let you know I was safe." I gestured to my uniform. As you can see, I'm very much alive. Luke and Audrey appeared behind our parents, their faces showing the same shock and growing panic. I could see the wheels turning in their heads as they realized the magnitude of what I'd discovered. How did you afford this house? I asked, looking around at their obvious newfound wealth. Last time I was here, you were struggling to pay bills. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. Well, I said, pulling out my phone as the full reality of their betrayal sank in. Since I'm not actually dead, I guess you'll have to give back every penny of that life insurance money you stole, plus interest and penalties for insurance fraud. My father found his voice first, and his response was exactly what I expected from them. We thought you were never coming back anyway, so we figured you wouldn't mind. You abandoned us, Kate. You left and never looked back. Luke, still clutching an expensive watch he'd clearly just unwrapped, had the audacity to add, "Besides, we needed the money more than you did since you abandoned us." That's when something inside me finally snapped. All those years of being treated like a burden, all those times they made me feel worthless, and now they'd literally cashed in on my death while I was serving my country overseas. I smiled. Not a happy smile, but the kind of smile that comes when you finally understand exactly who people really are. Well, since I'm not actually dead, I said calmly, dialing 911, I guess we'll have to sort this out properly. The 911 operator answered and I spoke clearly. I need to report insurance fraud. My family filed a false death claim and collected $250,000 on my life insurance policy while I was deployed overseas. I'm standing in their living room right now, very much alive, and I'd like to press charges. What followed was the most satisfying Christmas morning of my life. Police arrived within 20 minutes, followed by federal investigators since insurance fraud across state lines is a federal crime. My family was arrested one by one, in front of their shocked neighbors who had come over to witness the miracle of the dead daughter who came back to life. Today they're each serving 5-year sentences in federal prison. They had to sell everything they bought with my money to pay back the insurance company, plus $500,000 in penalties. Meanwhile, I used my military benefits to buy my dream house and started my own security consulting business, which now makes more money than they ever stole from me. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, and living truthfully. Alright, judgment time. Team Kate or Team Family? Did she make the right call cutting everyone off, or should forgiveness have won the day? I'm dying to know what side you're on. And if you want more stories that'll have you cheering for justice, subscribe and hit notifications. You know you want to see how these things play out.